Welcome to Inside the Upside Down. Thanks for joining us tonight on this Slenderman episode of our After Hours Edge of the Rabbit Hole episode. I'm sorry, I'm tired. It's been a long day, and we just had a great Edge of the Rabbit Hole episode. I really want to thank John D'Souza for joining us. But we're switching gears from all the extraterrestrial conspiracy theory stuff to Slenderman, which kind of has its own conspiracy theories in there as well. And in fact, John did mention Slenderman a few times in our last show. So related, possibly. And you know what? I forgot to switch out the bars. There we go. There's the Inside the Upside Down bar. So great to have everybody with us. Thanks for staying for another hour. I know this is our late night show, so we get you late night people out here, but that's why I have my coffee and we're ready to roll. Haunted Road Roast. Phoenix Feather 1031 saying, "Sleep, Mike, sleep." I don't know the meaning. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I tell that to Shauna all the time, and she just shakes her head at me. It is what it is. I had stuff to do. I gotta work, and then we have all this. So, okay, Slenderman. So, I wanted to cover this since, the movie's about to come out, so it's not just blatantly, the movie's coming out, it's a YouTube video, all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff concerning Slenderman that, and I'm not sure how they're going to present it in the movie. And I know some people are upset out there about them doing this because of the tragedies that happened a few years ago with the girls. There's more than one, but only one ever gets talked about. And so I did a Slenderman sound off about it back then, and voicing my views on everything that happened. But first and foremost, just to get down to it, Slenderman is not real. Just straight up, he's not real. Okay. Yeah, Tom, I hope that Dustin's drinking my coffee. Haunted Road Roast, you want it. It's awesome. It's good. And you want Ghosty too. So, not even being subliminal about it. What's Linda saying? Probably he's scary, always harassing me about cupcakes. Okay. Interesting. So, but yeah, I mean, seriously, there's... Unfortunately, when that tragedy occurred, and we'll get into it here in a little bit, those girls thought that he was real. And they had some other issues as well. They're both confined to very long terms in psychiatric facilities. But they wholeheartedly believe that he was real. And he's not. He's not. He is a fictional being that was created in 2009. And this is, in a way, a little hard for me as a writer. Being a creative person myself. And I can't imagine being in the shoes of somebody whose character has been taken extremely too far. So let's go ahead and introduce you to Slenderman. So let me bring this up. So this is essentially an artist depiction of him, because of course there's no real photograph. But people, take photographs being dressed up as Slenderman and all that thing. Donna will get into Tulpas here in a little bit. So he's, generally 6 to 14 feet tall, which is kind of a wide range. 6 to 14 feet tall. He's always in a suit. No face. The face is white. This depiction kind of gives him a little, some little depressions for eyes and mouth or whatever. But he generally just has no face. You don't see him here in this photo, but he has these tendrils that come out of the back, almost like tentacles that will kind of wrap his victims. He can read minds, he can teleport. He mostly targets children, and we'll get into that a little bit as well, because there's a twist on that that we'll get into. So where he started was... as a project by Eric Knudsen. He was going under the name Victor Surge at the time. And it was a Photoshop contest. And so it was just, create some photos that seemed real. And so he created, and I have some other stuff in the background here. That's from last week's show. Okay, I'll turn that off. I mean, he made a creepy photo here. Here's this tall guy, no face, in a suit. He's got that white face standing in the background there, and he had this little story that went along with it. To tell the story of these photos that he put together for this project. So that's the one. And here's the other. You can see Slenderman under the tree there. You can kind of see the tendrils kind of poking out from him. And this is the origin. This is where the story of Slenderman began. Was from these two photographs for a Photoshop project. And like I said, he created a little story that went along with it and submitted that. And now it has its own mythology. And kind of one of the dangerous things about Slenderman is the fact that you can keep adding and adding and adding and adding to the story and increasing on this canon. So it's really almost like a modern day mythology, but it's sinister in nature. And I kind of harken back in John in our last show, On the Edge of the Rabbit Hole with John D'Souza. He related a lot of these different beings, interdimensional beings. We were talking shadow people, and so he lumped Slenderman in there as well. And to me, the Slenderman myths and legends do have a lot of similarities to shadow people. And so when these stories are written, and you guys may have heard the term creepypasta, and so these are basically stories. It's a website that carries these stories of Slenderman and a lot of other different things as well. It's not just Slenderman. It's all kinds of different stuff out there that they do stories for. I don't know where I was going because I just segued, and I was okay. Where's the segue going? Okay, yes. So when you were saying down there below, tired, yeah. So it allows. Okay, that's where I was going. So it allows a place for people to. It's almost like fan fiction, right? So it allows anybody and everybody to keep adding and adding and adding and adding to the story, which, as a creative person, being a writer, I think is great. I think that's actually a wonderful thing. It's when other people take that too far that it gets to a dangerous place, and that's where those girls took it extremely too far. So Nisa and Morgan, the two girls that stabbed their friend Peyton in the name of Slenderman, because they believed that they were going to become proxies for Slenderman and go off into the forest where the Slenderman mansion was and live happily ever after. And they believed that they had to do it, otherwise Slenderman was going to come and harm their family. But if they did this act, and this was Morgan's best friend, they had been best friends since like the 4th grade. But they believed they did this, not only would Slenderman not harm their families, but then they would become these proxies and live in this big mansion in the woods. So that is an occasion where it has gone way, way too far. So Tom McNicholas saying follows the same story as the Boogeyman and Candyman. Well, yeah, I mean, people draw from other influences and add to the story. So you're going to have a lot of similarities to, to other, Boogeyman type stories, Candyman, all that stuff. I mean, shoot, Diane Hilbert sent me this thing the other day that related Stranger Things to It, and that they were in the same universe. So, but the creators of Stranger Things admitted that they did draw some influences from It. So, you get influence from somewhere, and then you incorporate some of those things, not all of them. You incorporate some of them, put your little spin on it, and then add to the story. And so that's what's happened here in a lot of different ways. So, I right off the bat see a lot of different similarities to Shadow People. That's kind of front and center. And, the Shadow People stories, thousands of years worth from cultures from all over the world. And, while I believe, yes, many of them are true, of course, because I've had my own Shadow People experiences, some of them have been a little embellished too. So, that's kind of what you get when you have people adding this. But with Slenderman, it is straight up a creative environment. So we have this spooky bad guy, and let's all collaborate on creating the spooky adventures of Slenderman. Like I said, it's a as a creative person, it's a very cool concept. And especially given the fact that, okay, I'm involved with the paranormal, I like spooky things. I'll say I like horror movies, but I more like paranormal thrillers. Something that's a little more mind-bending, like the slasher stuff, not so much. But something that's, very creepy and mind-bending, something that gets you thinking, like psychological thrillers I really like, things like that. So those type of, and of course, paranormal stuff. So anything like that I like. So those girls weren't the only ones that committed crimes in the name of Slenderman. There was another one that happened a couple weeks after. It was a girl who stabbed her mother. Not nearly as bad as the girls had stabbed Peyton, but there was still, of course, the same thing with arrests and police reports and everything that happened. And actually, I'm not really sure what ended up happening to that girl, because the trail kind of ended there after a little bit. But she was put into a juvenile facility for a while, and that's kind of where the trail ended there. So, see, Linda Miller saying, I like paranormal movies based around true events. Well, yeah, anything like that. Although, like the first Conjuring movie, it's like, it was great for that type of movie. It just wasn't true to the story. Like 99% of it wasn't. It was pretty off. So, Jill is saying, the libraries here have no Slenderman books. I had to go to Barnes & Noble to order it. They don't carry it in the store. Yeah, that would make sense. And right now, I think it's definitely a very sensitive time, because the movie's coming out. And they've delayed it. It was supposed to come out back in May, and now they've delayed it till August. And that more had to do with finances and stuff like that. That didn't have to do with anybody being sensitive about anything. So, yeah, Pungai Fungi, he sure didn't bust them out of jail. No. And if you watch some of those interviews, it kind of, I think, sank in on the girls there that, oh, yeah, he's not coming to help us. We did all this for him, and he's not coming. So, yeah, it was maybe a bit of an eye-opener for them. I don't know. Those interviews were a bit hard to watch, too. Just the naivete. And, yeah, they diagnosed, I can't remember what they diagnosed Anissa with, but with Morgan, it was schizophrenia. And so to actually see her talk in some of those was like, wow. Let's see, you saw a ghost walking behind. I know. Well, I tried blocking it with the sign. I didn't do a very good job of it, did I? Yeah. So next week we'll be out there. Yeah, and Carrie, Shauna's not here tonight. She had to work. So that's because we spent 3-day weekend with Spook Show in Mattoon, Illinois, and so she had to sacrifice Tuesday for that. So Tim Schoen said, I can't even play the Slenderman game I bought on Steam. Yeah, so there's even video games, in the Slenderman name, of course. So, and I've seen that. It does seem very, very creepy where you're looking for these pages and you're trying to go through the forest looking for the pages and you have to get them all and Slenderman's chasing you. So, another extension of the lore and the myth and all of that. Which, I mean, I'm fine with the game, and I've seen some videos of, kids spooking themselves trying to play the game and stuff like that. They do a very good job of making it creepy, and that's, kind of the whole intent, which is fine. It's just, where it went with those girls. Very, very sad indeed. So, let's see, what did I miss there? Phoenix Feather saying, download and can't play it because it's creepy. Usually horror games will bother her. Yeah. It is a very creepy game. So they have accomplished the goal, But yeah, Slenderman has become the modern day boogeyman. And given that was an internet creation, it's pretty fitting for the times that instead of these stories that we had passed down to us before, sitting over a campfire telling the stories, they got written down in books at one point in time, scrolls way back, word of mouth even longer back. So now we're in the internet age, and now here's the story. So I did see a question in there from Sharon Lane. Is it possible that all of this mental and emotional energy given to him has begun making a PK manifestation? Okay, so I saw Donna mention in there about Tulpa earlier. So, Tulpa. It is, I suppose it's possible that Slenderman could now be a Tulpa. For those of you that don't know what a Tulpa is, because I do get that question, what's a Tulpa? Whenever I mention something about Tulpa. So a Tulpa basically is an entity, and generally a negative entity, taking some sort of established story, some sort of trait, personality, whatever that's being perpetuated, in this case Slenderman, jumping on that and basically taking on that persona for itself. So in Slenderman's case, some nefarious supernatural entity out there sees everybody putting all of this energy into Slenderman. It's going around the internet. There's people hurting others in its name. It's become a game. It's become all this. There's a lot of action surrounding this one character, which was completely fictional. It was made up. So it sees this, I want to get in on that action, and decides to take on the persona of Slenderman. It's not really Slenderman, but it takes on that persona of Slenderman and becomes it. And now you have a supernatural entity running around actually as Slenderman. And that would be what a Tulpa is. So Slenderman itself is not real. But if it has become a Tulpa, it would be a supernatural entity that has taken on the persona of Slenderman. So think of it that, I've decided to put on a Jingles the Clown mask. For all of you guys that don't like clowns, okay? And I just wholeheartedly, boom, I am now Jingles the Clown. And I use Jingles because that was actually a clown that was at my birthday party when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And he was a good clown. But I'm just now totally that persona the whole time, Jingles the Clown, forever and always. And I act like that all the time. I've just taken on that persona. Even though, really, underneath it, I'm Mike Ricksecker. So that's kind of the same thing. So that would be Diane, no clowns. Well, sorry. Jingles the Clown was awesome. I don't understand the whole clown thing. I really don't. I mean, I get that, okay, a lot of these movies and there's artwork and all that stuff that make, some really creepy looking clowns. And it's like, okay, that's a real creepy looking clown. But just naturally, like a clown at the circus, that was been my exposure. Jingles the Clown for a birthday party, and then going to the circus and seeing all these clowns being goofy and, and having fun with each other. Even with Dumbo, the clowns were, doing funny stuff. So I never got the whole clowns are creepy thing. So from Betty and Wayne, how about Dracula becoming Twilight and teens going crazy? That's a little different. Yeah, I mean, that's a different twist on the whole vampire thing, making them glittery. Whatever. That was just taking the teen romance formula and slapping vampires on it, and we need to make it attractive to teenage girls, so let's make them glitter and glow. And yeah, that was what that was. I think I missed one up there. Did I miss a question somewhere? Yeah. From Linz, do you think that a negative entity or dead person could pretend to be Slenderman? So that's kind of the same thing that I was talking about with the Tulpa. So that's kind of it's really kind of the real, probably the most common question with Slenderman is, has a negative entity from somewhere else taken on the role of Slenderman? So is Slenderman real now? I don't know if a negative entity has taken on the persona of Slenderman. It's really hard. It's really hard to know that. I mean, I've never personally seen Slenderman. I've seen a lot of shadow people. Not one of them has ever been Slenderman. I mean, really, you take a look at him, it's like he's a cross between shadow people and the Men in Black with tentacles. Yeah, I've never personally seen it. All of my interactions with other people about him are generally about the story and about the case. There are those that will say, well, yeah, I've seen him, he's real, that sort of thing. But how much of that is that they're, again, playing into the story of it all? Like these girls. I mean, they were, running through all the stuff online and then decided that they were going to harm their friend. So did they really interact with Slenderman? It didn't really seem like it. At least from what I saw of the case, I didn't really see where they had a supposed interaction with him. It was more of they believed that they needed to do this to appease him. So I think that one was a bit different. So, and it's hard, it's actually kind of hard to say that about this particular thing because I deal so much with shadow people. And, how many times have I heard a shadow person story that, like with Slenderman, you're saying, okay, well, it's all fiction, I can't believe it. A little bit different with shadow people where it stems from something that is real. The supernatural entities of shadow people do exist. Whether it's you're waking up with them in the corner of your room, sitting on your chest, all those different variations that have come from cultures from all over the world for thousands of years. whether they're wearing the hat, or they're a black mist, or they're the crawler, or what have you. And of course, people can embellish their stories and experiences or completely fabricate them. But the root of it is a supernatural entity that we know for sure exists. Slenderman is a little bit different because the root of it, we know for a fact, is a fictional character. So for those that are saying that they really truly saw Slenderman, it's even harder for people to believe that they really saw Slenderman, because we know that the root of it is in this fictional character, where with shadow people, it's rooted in something that we know to be true, that we know to exist. At least a lot of people do, because you talk to my sister or somebody and that is, totally doesn't believe in any of it, then of course they would say no. But I think you get what I'm saying. So this was from Murtaza Arif. When was the last time you saw a shadow man, Mike? So that's a good question. When was the last time? Because when we were, because it was just recently here. There was somebody it was at the end of a hallway. Where were we at? Oh, I'm trying to think. It was recent. I've seen quite a few. The most prevalent ones, would be like Johnny V's that I talk about all the time. That would have been 2010, 2011 when we did that investigation. That was a fantastic one. Of course, there's the one when I was a child that I talk about all the time. On investigations, I see a number of different shadow people. That's why I'm trying to place where I saw that one. The last one I would have seen would have been at the end of a hallway. Damn, where was it? Were we live for that? Does anybody remember if we were live for that? And I may have seen it live. There's the Campsville Grade School, which is a fantastic clip that I've now included on some of the different presentations that I give. There's the big black mist at the house in Edmond. So there's been a lot. It's most recent. We've only done a few investigations, so it would have been either the Charleston Hospital, or before that would have been the Cheney House. It was one of those two. So, April when it was. I haven't known anyone to see a shadow person as often as you do. That's kind of interesting. The way I look at it, so Shauna and I will say she's the dark to my light and I'm the light to her dark and stuff like that. And with what we see on, when we're investigating and whatnot, we're kind of almost the opposite, where I'm the dark and she's the light, because I will see a lot of shadows. She will see a lot of apparitions, and I don't see as many apparitions, and she doesn't see as many shadows. So I think it's more of what you're in tune with, what your vibration will connect with. And for some reason, I seem to connect a lot with the shadow realm. And I know other people that see a lot of different shadows. So, so from Betty, not much to do in small towns, so this could be part of why these characters are created. Well, yeah, characters get created for a lot of different reasons, whether it's small town or or if you're lonely. So one of the things that these girls keyed in on that kind of helped to spur the situation is that they didn't have a lot of friends. It's like there's a couple of them that hung around. So these two, Anissa and Morgan, and then there was their other friend Peyton that was more of Morgan's friend. But that was really about it. They got picked on a bit at school. I remember the one teacher saying that Anissa would just suddenly break down and cry in school. So, and of course she would get made fun of for that. So they were a bit outcast. And so, when you're alone and have that kind of time, you start to get a bit more creative with things. And there is one that I know of, and there may be more. So part of the Slenderman lore, part of the Slenderman canon that because like I said, people keep adding. So part of the story now, or at least one of the stories, is that when Slenderman was a younger Slenderman, when he was a little faceless white, in a suit, white-faced in a suit boy, a slender boy, he got picked on a lot. And he was bullied at school. And so it is caused those who have been bullied, the younger kids who have been bullied at school, which is a tragedy in and of itself. And I went through bullying when I was a kid. So I know from all of that, which maybe that's the reason why I was alone in writing many times. It creates this interesting juxtaposition. So it gives them something to connect to Slenderman with. Oh, Slenderman, when he was young, he was bullied too. And now look how powerful he is. However, Slenderman then became this evil, mean thing that targeted children. So, like I said, interesting juxtaposition in that they are connecting with him because of what he was when he was younger, but he is actually targeting them. Which I don't think they make that connection. I think they just see that, oh, okay, Slenderman, this happened to Slenderman too, and now he's big and powerful, and forgetting the whole part that he's targeting children. So, but that's become part of the lore. Per the Haglin, I think we, quote unquote, we come up with the proverbial boogeyman to help process some of the extremely evil things people can do. No one wants to think of what others are capable of. Tom McNicholas with a $10 super chat for giving us bad dreams tonight. Haglin, and I think we do that in a lot of our creative works, is that we're trying to process something, and we're putting it into a fictional setting, but we're trying to relate something in real life, and perhaps it's through this creative story that we can make more sense of it to others. For the writer themselves, it becomes a bit therapeutic. I'm going to write about this particular topic that I'm not letting people know it's me, even though it is about me, and it is about something that I've experienced, and it is about part of my life, and part of my alter egos in there, or what have you. And so we're trying to make sense of something that's happened to us, or happened to a group we're a part of, or could even be something external that we've seen that we want to write about and relate. And we just don't want to relate, we don't want to be like a newscaster and say, okay, here's all the events that happened. Either, I don't want to say make it more interesting, but just make it so that there's not this direct, he's talking about this person, he's talking about themselves, that thing. So we create this fictional world and put that real life incident into it. And so, it helps us to process that. Doesn't always necessarily have to be a, something evil or a boogeyman or what have you. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Even some of our, greatest, love stories that are out there, that are written, some of our romances and whatnot, they have this tragedy within there because the writer experienced something similar. And so they, at the core of it, they want to write about this tragedy. And maybe at the end, they bring it out. It's like, this tragedy happened to me, but I want to write it out that they overcame it, even if maybe he or she didn't, but they overcame it. And here's what I think would have happened and what things I would have liked to have happened, Or they could keep it as a tragedy. So there's a lot of different ways to, creative writing is the way to express things like that. So, per Dave Styles. Hey, Dave. Can shadow people communicate with you? Interesting question. I believe they can communicate, but this is something Carl Johnson and I had briefly talked about at Ocean State Paracon, is that he asked me the question, do shadow people have voices? Which really threw me off because I'd never actually thought about that before. Do they have a voice? And in my experiences, I've heard them make noises. Usually something external, like, banging through the door, which, even though I never saw the door move, they banged through the door, that sort of thing. But I've never actually heard a voice of a shadow person. And of course, when we've seen shadows, we're trying to get EVPs and things like that. I may or may not have an EVP from a shadow person. I don't know, because like at the Edmund house, it was basically a shadow person with red eyes that she was seen in the closet. And I got some EVPs from there that basically said it wasn't the original homeowner, which could, or I should say, or which may or may not be the red-eyed entity. Could have been somebody completely different. Don't know. But, a lot of these shadows are completely faceless. The humanoid shadow person that I saw in my bedroom when I was a kid, faceless. People, when they report the Hat Man, they don't see his face. He's wearing the hat. It's, basically shading the face. The one that's different is the one with the red eyes. People see the eyes. The hooded figure, well, the hood is basically, blocking that. Some people do report seeing red eyes with the hood. Crawlers seem to run around a little too quickly for people to see faces. So, the question is their mouth? Is their actual mouth to speak with? So, Carl says he believes they're mute. And given that I haven't actually heard one yet, I don't know. I've always wanted to sit down and talk with one, interview one, and just be like, okay, so who and what are you things? That hasn't happened, of course. And it could be that if they do communicate, it's through the mind. If they're interdimensional or extra-dimensional beings, like we were talking about John D'Souza earlier, well, then that could be certainly a way they communicate. If they're on usually a different plane of existence, then maybe it's with the mind that they communicate. So, and so if Slenderman is similar, well, that could be. Slenderman has, again, no face. It's all white instead of black. Although, I did hear a story this past weekend from Denise Pridemore's husband about seeing a hooded figure with a white face, which is really different. From Phoenix Feather, why do you think spirits from the 1800s still haunt some places? Wouldn't you think they would have moved on? Well, I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't have moved on. There's apparently something that they think that they still have to be here for. It's a little different than our topic for tonight, but that's a good question. So, people have kind of poked fun and be like, okay, so where are your caveman spirits? Where are your dinosaur spirits and things like that? I think there's at some point in time where they do eventually move on. Because there aren't a lot of ancient spirits that are around. And I do believe in reincarnation. So I think at some point they do get, recycled back into the mix. Why at one particular time and not another? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation as to, there's something that they need to finish. They're too scared to move on. There's a lot of different reasons that people speculate as to why they haven't gone on somewhere else. I have seen where, one spouse passed away, the other was still alive, and so the one spouse stuck around until the other one passed away, and then they were both gone. So that tells me right there, okay, they were waiting for that to happen, and then they moved on. Some people, another one is, some people may not realize that they've passed away. And there's also the theory that people that have passed away don't realize time. And so if they don't realize time, then, we're like, okay, that's a spirit from the 1800s. they may still think it's the 1800s, So, we're getting into a lot of different theoretical stuff, and that's one of the interesting things about this field is that we're working with a lot of these different theories. In the same sense, it's also hard to prove a lot of these different things. So we always have this discussion back and forth, back and forth. So, let's see what else you guys have. So, per Tom, what would you ask a shadow person or Slender Man if you could? And Imla Buddha 61, I'll get that one first. It says, does the Slender Man phenomenon only prevail in the United States? No, it's the internet. It's worldwide. So you have Slender Man stories now coming in from all over. So it originated in the United States, but it is a worldwide phenomenon now. So, which is kind of interesting because I do closely relate this to shadow people. Shadow people were worldwide. But with shadow people, this is where it's different. So with Slender Man, it started because it was a fictional being, started in the United States, and then grew out everywhere else because of the internet. Where with shadow people, all these different cultures all over the world, not connected to each other at all, and they all ended up with very, very, very similar stories about these shadow entities, especially with with what we call old hag syndrome. All these different cultures from all over the world for thousands of years reporting the same type of phenomenon. They had no connection with each other. And then to Tom's question, what would you ask a shadow person or Slender Man if you could? There's so many questions, like exactly who or what are you? Where do you come from? I mean, just the basics. I mean, that's the thing. We don't even really have the basics. Even the basics are just theories. My theory is that they're interdimensional beings. They may not be. Some people think that they're aliens. Some people think that they are spirits of humans that just can't fully manifest. So there's a lot of different theories out there. So, first and foremost, what the heck are you? The second one, where are you from? Well, that's, if, from the Earth. Are they from another plane of existence? Are they from another planet? So let's just start with some basics here. With Slender Man, I guess it would be, if I really encountered Slender Man, would be, okay, so did you take on this persona and become Slender Man, or did you always exist and somehow you have now, made your presence known and have spread around? I guess somehow did you influence Victor Surge to come up with this idea? Was he part of the collective unconscious and just boom? Yeah, you don't know, but I'd ask it. So, did you guys have more questions? Candyman started in New Orleans. Tim Schoen, why do you think Slenderman Mythos has taken off as it has? Oh, internet's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Well, here's this, very mysterious, very creepy character that you can add anything you want to. I mean, honestly, it would be something I'd never have, but it probably would have been something that I would have jumped in on years ago. They've created, this little bit of, here's this person. It's almost like, okay, here's the photograph, write a story about it now. Well, here you have this tall guy. He's got these tendrils. He's got these different characteristics. Now take those basics and run with it. Create your own story. I mean, that was like, something we would do in creative writing class. I mean, shoot, I think we did something like that in second grade, So it's one of those that's almost, fun. You would do those little stories where, okay, one person takes, the story, writes a couple sentences, you pass it to the next person, they take, they write a couple sentences, and it keeps going like that. So it's really the same type of concept, but now you have it with this creepy, mysterious character, and people like mysterious stuff. So, you have that as your backdrop, and then you put it out on the internet where anybody and everybody can get a hold of it. Boom, there it goes. That's all you needed. What else do you guys have? Carrie, hope you get well, man. I know you've been dealing with a lot of pain over there, so we do send some positive energy your way. From Nick Boulay. Hey, Nick. So, would you consider Slenderman a similar species of shadow people? Well, okay, well, there's two different ways to look at this. If you're just looking at the story, and if you're not even considering at all that he may be a Tulpa in real now, would he be considered a type of shadow person just in the fictional arena? Yeah, I'd probably mark him down there as a shadow person, or as a type or a species of shadow person. He has a lot of those similar characteristics. I've kind of already gone over that with shadow people. In real life, if he is a Tulpa right now, if some other entity has taken on the form of Slenderman, well, I would say that this thing is at least trying to portray itself as a type of shadow person in taking on that persona of Slenderman. Is it in reality, under that mask, a shadow person? I don't know. You'd have to see under that mask to see what is taken on the form, to see what it really is. So, for all we know, it's some sort of shapeshifter, which I would say is different than shadow people. But that's a good question. That's definitely a good question. Do you know if Bloody Mary was once a real person? Well, Bloody Mary is Mary Tudor. So the Queen, King Henry VIII's daughter, the Queen before Elizabeth. So it was Elizabeth's sister. She was known as Bloody Mary because of all the Protestants that she was having killed. So that was a very tumultuous time during England. King Henry VIII, inspired by Anne Boleyn, made the basically he just was he didn't like the church telling him what to do. So he decided to create the Church of England and separate from the Catholic Church. And, well, Mary's mother, who was from Spain, very, devout Catholic, Mary, when she came into power, was trying to put the Catholic Church back into power. And so she was having a bunch of, if you weren't Catholic, you were getting killed, sort of thing going on. And then when she died, Elizabeth came in and just, right back to what Henry VIII was doing. So that's where Bloody Mary comes from. So it got turned into a children's game. You guys have a lot of interesting questions in here tonight. So from Betty, is not Slenderman the same as the vampire beliefs people had that were stabbing corpses in the heart? Interesting. So, is the same as vampire beliefs people had that were stabbing corpses in the heart. The vampire beliefs of people stabbing in the heart is basically they were misinterpreting a couple different things going on. So, like here in the United States, they were misinterpreting tuberculosis. So when like everything was going on with Mercy Brown and all of that, that was a misinterpretation of that. When we were doing it out in like Romania and Poland and all that, which is kind of where that inspiration came from. Yeah, I mean, there were different things going on in the town, and they were digging up the corpses and, seeing basically decay and not understanding how the body transforms when it starts to decay, and then doing things like, cutting the body up. So, yeah, in that sense that you have this misinterpretation of the facts of what's going on. So if you have somebody, like let's say somebody new comes into it now, all these years later, and all this lore has built up for so long now, and you haven't taken the time to go back to the origins of it, or even bothering to look up origins of Slenderman, and you just started reading the Slenderman stories and being told that it's real, then you may start believing in all these different characteristics and things going on with Slenderman. So, like somebody back then, hacking up the corpses because of what they're being told, I guess it's similar to that kind of concept. Interesting to relate it to that. So, I know there are a couple others here. So, Candy, do you think the author had anything to do with spreading the stories online of Slenderman to boost sales? Well, I don't think he wasn't really trying to sell anything. His original submission was for a Photoshop contest. So, I mean, he was trying to win a contest, but it wasn't predicated on, how many people are spreading the story. So now since then, he does have, traffic being driven to the site, but it's not just his site. I mean, he does have a site now, but there's a lot of different sites that are covering Slenderman stories, or even Slenderman art. So, there's the, I forget what his actual site is, but Creepypasta covers it as well. DeviantArt covers a lot of Slenderman art, so there's a lot of different websites that are all involved with this. So it's not just him. And honestly, I don't know about Slenderman merch. It wasn't around back then when he first created it. It wasn't, some sort of scheme to, sell a bunch of t-shirts or anything like that. From Sandy Miller, do you know if shadow people follow you when you move? Some do. It's not an all-inclusive thing. I have seen where you move and the shadow person seems to move. Sometimes you move and the shadow person darts away because they're just like, oh wow, somebody's here, and it's almost like you spooked them. Like when I burst into the kitchen in Johnny V's and flew across, or when I was unpacking, moving to Ohio, and I'm looking and somebody just darted out of my doorway. So that can happen. I've also seen where you're standing there kind of looking. There's a shadow over there just standing there. One of the camps of grade school, Shauna and I were sitting on the bleachers. Sorry for that. I was hitting that. Shauna and I were sitting on the bleachers, not really moving, but yet there's the shadow person walking over by the doors in the gym to go to the locker room. So, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Murtaza Arif. Do you think Shadow Man or Slender Man can enter into people's dreams? People do dream about them. And, part of the lore is that he can get into people's dreams. As far as like real shadow people, do they get into your dreams? So that's it's kind of a source of contention, because like the medical community would have you believe that seeing a shadow person, like when you wake up, is nothing more than your hallucination, because you're coming out of a dream state, and your body a lot of times hasn't fully awakened yet, so they'll say, well, now you have sleep paralysis along with it, and you're hallucinating the shadow person in your room. And what I always throw out there with this one is that, well, I don't always dream about people. I dream about all kinds of stuff. When I was at Spook Show Con here, the one that I threw out there was like, last night, this was the night before I spoke for that event. Last night I dreamt about, it was like a recurring mob movie that kept going on. But there were like cars and stuff in that, the old, gangster type cars and Tommy guns and stuff like that. So I dream about all kinds of stuff. And the one I always joke about is I've had dreams about being on stage with Motley Crue. It's true. I've had a couple of those types of dreams. I've had dreams of being on the baseball field at Fenway Park. There's all of those things that would be within those dreams don't manifest in the bedroom. It's a person. So I can they get into your dreams? I would say that if you're seeing a shadow person when you wake up, they were not in your dream. That you are physically seeing them in your room. You can dream of shadow people, whether or not that is a part of your dream happening, or whether they're getting into the dream. That one I'm not so sure about. Whether they can actually physically get into your dream, like jump into your mind and get into your dream. I'm not so sure on that. Maybe if you believe that they can talk to you through the mind, is there by chance a way that they are there trying to speak to you into your mind in your sleep? Is that infiltrating your dream? That's a good question. But aside from that, I don't really think they're getting into your dream. I think you just may be having a dream about shadow people. There are times I have dreams about not so nice things. But it doesn't mean that, So, past life Mike as a gangster? Nah, it was just a dream. Tom McNicholas says, I got rid of my shadow people, now I'll see Slenderman. Yeah, that's it. Now you'll see Slenderman now that you got rid of your shadow people. That's funny. Per Dave Styles, do shadow people appear at any time of day? Yes. Yes, shadow people can occur at any time of day. I have seen them at any time of day. So, whether it's morning, afternoon, night, whatever, I've seen them any time of day. So have other people. So the stories and reports that I've gotten from others take place at pretty much any time. So, yeah, it's not one of those that's only a nighttime thing. So what else do you guys have? So per Sharon Lane, do you see regional differences in entities like Slenderman? That's an interesting question. So like, does one particular country view him or perpetuate him differently than other countries? I'm not sure, just to be honest, because I haven't looked at it, breaking it down by country. I've seen artwork from other countries, and everybody has their own style. I've seen from Japan that look like a little bit more like anime. But there's a lot of great American artists right now that are also drawing anime. And I've seen a lot of great sketches from all over the world. So it's hard to. Yeah, I just haven't done that kind of classification for it to be able to answer the question. So it would be an interesting study, though. That would definitely be an interesting study. What else do you guys have? We're kind of getting down toward the end here. could be that Tom McNicholas could be the Mothman without wings. Nice. Jill says, ironically, Henry VIII killed more people than Mary. I believe that, and he killed a lot of people that were very close to him. So it's pretty sad, all the people who he thought betrayed him, that may have been very, very close, dear friends, whatever. Yeah, I think there are a lot of people that he killed that he regretted. That was a little while ago, though. You guys have anything else? Sharon meant even within our own country, like from northern to southern regions. Yeah, again, I mean, that's I'd have to do some sort of study to see that, to see if there are differences, but between regions. I mean, the internet is a global community, and so I don't know. It's not like, it's so different these days. It's not like, people sitting around the campfire and you see how, things developed in this area and then it developed in that area and all that. The internet's global like that. So, but even with it being global, would there be similar things that people in one particular region throw into the story that other people in another region don't? I don't know. It's a good question, though. I really like that. So, per Betty, did Slenderman become more popular after the Wisconsin case? Well, I think so. They now have a movie. It was already pretty popular beforehand, and that's how the girls became accustomed to it, is because it was growing and growing and growing in popularity on the internet. They had, I'm pretty sure the game was already out by then, but there was already so much stuff out there about Slenderman on the internet that I would say just say yes, because there's a lot of people, I think, more, because it did cater to a younger crowd. I think there are more adults that became aware of Slenderman after that case than before it. And now, of course, there's a movie, so it's going to be even more popular than ever. From Tim, how did you and Shauna see the shadow person at the Campbellsville school in the dark? We actually, that's a good point. We actually didn't see it then in the dark. We actually saw it after the fact on video. So that is one. Okay, I'll have to partially retract that, because we didn't actually see it then. We saw it on the footage afterward. Yeah, I've seen a lot of shadows with my own eyes, but that one we actually didn't. It was there. It was obviously there because it was, plain as day on the footage. So there's that. I'll have to partially retract that one. So from Tara Olivia, what could shadow people want? Energy? Well, that's another question that Tom had the question, what would I ask Slenderman or a shadow person? That would be another one. What do you want? What is it you want? Do some of them want energy? I don't know. I think energy kind of gets, the term energy kind of gets thrown around a lot in our circles. I also, because there's this idea that spirits, especially human spirits, will see a person and grab onto them to get energy so that they can try to manifest something. And I see a lot of different shows, videos, whatever, where people are saying, use my energy to manifest. And for the most part, I don't think most of these spirits know what in the world we're talking about. Or use the batteries of my flashlight to do something, and to get energy. I really don't think that they know what that is. I think that when they do draw that energy off of there, that's an accident. That they don't really realize that that's what they're doing. Otherwise, I think that if they realize, hey, that's what I'm doing, I'm getting, from that battery, I'm getting energy, and I'm able to do more things. I think if they realize that, they would just stick their finger in the socket in the wall and get all the energy they needed. So that said, when it comes to like shadow people drawing energy, are they energy vampires? I really don't know. I've seen, I've seen shadows not even try to, touch you or get near you or whatever. Some just seem curious, like the one, peering in at me from my bedroom door. If you wanted my energy, you should have come into the room. Or like the one I scared out of Johnny V's. I think it saw me as a different type of entity, and it got scared and took off. So. I don't think that that's what necessarily they're always looking for, is to get energy. I think they're here probably for something else. Just don't really know what. It's kind of the issue. Well, that's a good question. What else? Per Nick, could a shadow person in some way stalk you? Sure. I think that could certainly happen. That, like people, all shadow people are different. Just like all people are different. So we have people that are stalkers. I think some shadow people could be stalkers. So some people do report getting stalked by shadow people. That, and it's usually like the same one. That they keep seeing it in different places near them, in the same room, at night. Or they might even go somewhere else and it still seems to be there following them. So, yeah, I think that can certainly happen. Let's see, maybe one or two more, and then we will wrap it up. Tom McNicholas, human energy is stronger than batteries. Well, yeah, I mean, humans built the Matrix. Our energy built the Matrix, right? So, and Tara says she's been experiencing them all her life. Okay, we should talk then. I'm in the process of writing a book on shadow people, because I have had so many different shadow people experiences. A lot of people, because of my experiences, people have asked me numerous types of questions about shadow people over the years, and of course I give a shadow person presentation, all that now. So I'm basically putting all that into a book. Since, hey, I'm a writer. Yeah, I mean, I still maintain that any of the stuff about shadow people, and even about Slenderman, it's all theoretical. We as humans, we try to classify different things, so we're trying to make sense of it. That's kind of the idea. Maybe as we keep classifying things and breaking things out and observing and all of that, that we'll start to piece together what exactly these things are. So I reserve the right to change my mind about any of this. So, all right. From Donna, do you think there's dangerous shadow people versus the benign kind you experience? Yes. Yep. So I put out the video, Are Shadow People Evil? And I've actually added that slide to my shadow person presentation. So, of course, there will be a chapter in the book as well. Are shadow people evil? Because I've seen videos, I've seen interviews with people in which, and I've just heard people make comments off the cuff that, shadow people are evil, shadow people are beyond evil, shadow people are the most malevolent, etc. Bad things. I believe some are. Some are. Others are not. Others are just fine. Just like there's some very evil people in this world. I think there's some very evil shadow people out there. So it goes both ways. I think that I don't necessarily think you can classify an entire species as good or evil. With light, there's dark, right? So you're going to have some good and you're going to have some bad. They need to balance each other out. So, Yeah, Tom McNicholas. Everyone should see Mike's presentation on shadow people. If you didn't, it's really cool. Yeah, so the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel, you have, there's an entire playlist of shadow people videos. So I do cover a lot of these different topics within that playlist in a number of different videos. I did post my Ocean State Paracon presentation up there, and then there's all kinds of, there's Our Shadow People Evil. I go over Old Hag Syndrome in one of the videos. So there's a lot of stuff within there. There's probably like, I don't know, 8 or 10 videos within that playlist, so you can check that out. That's sad, Donna. I heard someone talk about a few interacting with a small child that led her to intentionally electrocute herself. That's sad. Yeah, there's negative ones. Linda saying I've had some negative experiences with shadow people. Yeah. And really, I thought for a long time my first interaction with a shadow person, and the one that crossed my arms across my body, I thought for a long time that was a negative experience. Because I was terrified. I was 8 or 9 years old, about that. And I was terrified. And this thing touched me and was doing, I don't know what the hell this was, People now have tried to say, well, maybe it was putting you in a burial pose. Well, it's still a maybe. I have no idea. So I, for a long time, thought that was a negative experience. Well, I'm not sure at this point. Kind of looking back, it didn't physically hurt me. It manipulated me and terrified the shit out of me. But it's not like I got bruised or bloodied or anything like that. Nothing was broken. So I don't know. But other people do report some really bad experiences where they have gotten hurt, or influenced to hurt, or whatever. People have had definitely have had some negative experiences with shadow people, and some people have had just fine experiences. So I just maintain it goes both ways. There's some good and there's some bad. Lynn's White maybe was trying to protect you. Yeah, maybe, but protect from what? I don't know. From Kathy Ciliento with a $10 super chat, for staying awake so long. Awesome show as always. Well, thank you, Kathy. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, this was an interesting one. I always like talking about stuff like this. Yes, it leads into shadow people because there's that kind of like natural correlation. And Slenderman has that mysteriousness to it, and plus I have to admit, I admire the creativity behind it, and that there was a community that jumped on, and they're all contributing to that. It's just some people have took it way, way too far, and I do hope that those girls were getting the help that they needed. That was a horrific tragedy. 25 years for Anissa and 40 years for Morgan. But what they did to their friend was horrible. So education, definitely would help there. I think that opened a lot of people's eyes to, wow, what the hell is this? Just know that, Slenderman, all this stuff that people have, written about him, it's fiction. It's fiction. And of course, there's the question, is he a Tulpa, has something, taken on its form and is now performing acts as Slenderman? I honestly don't know, because I haven't personally seen it. There's some people that say that it has, but are those people that are saying it, or are they somebody that I would trust? Are they an eyewitness, and are they somebody that I would trust as an eyewitness? The people that have, I don't know them, so I have no idea. But like I said earlier, Slenderman is rooted in fiction, where shadow people is rooted in truth. So I believe the stuff about shadow people more than I believe anything about Slenderman, because it's a story. It's a story. All right, everybody. I think that will about wrap up the show. Let's go ahead and get to the shout-outs. Yes. Getting tired, of course. So, all right. So Super Chat Superstars for this show. Tom McNicholas for giving us bad dreams tonight. Kathy Ciliento for staying awake so long. Thank you for being our Super Chat Superstars for the evening. Really, really do appreciate it. Appreciate all of you who have hung out this long. It is 11:11 here in the Central Time Zone, past midnight out in the East. So Pamela Rainey is the Black Eyed Kids' dad. Nice. So Pamela Rainey, there's your shout out. There's the Haglin. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Betty and Wayne, thank you very much. This good but sad story about the girls. Yes, very sad. Lenora Moreno, thanks for joining us tonight. Of course, Donna Gordon, thank you for Cheshire Cat chatting the chat. Absolutely appreciate that. There's Jill again. Thanks for hanging out for both shows, Jill. Do appreciate that. Tracy Christian, thank you for joining us again. Lynn's White, thank you very much. There's Jen K. Thank you very much, Jen. Sharon Lane, thank you as well. Adam Tillery, there's an Adam Tillery sighting. He's always kind of hanging out there. I know he's working on stuff. I know he's like doing his illustrations and all that over there. It says Mike is the sleepy man. Thanks, Adam. And can't wait to see your latest work. Who else do we have that has hung out this long? Andrew Cox, thanks for joining us again, as always. Fungi, thank you very much. So we have also, there's Linda Miller. Thank you for joining us for both shows. Tara Olivia, thank you very much for your questions and your experiences. Imla Buddha 61, thank you as well. What else do we have? Tom McNicholas. So, okay, deep down the rabbit hole, Patreon patrons. Tom McNicholas, Beat 3 Airspace, Zippy Davis, Pamela Queen, Andrew Cox. Thank you guys very, very much. BD Flint as well. Carrie Parrish, thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you are healing up. And Mickey Dole, thank you very much. Who else do we have? Candy Orton, of course. Thank you, Candy. Robert, thank you very much. Melissa Nicholson, thank you for joining us as well. Nick Millet, thanks for the questions tonight. Absolutely appreciate that. Dave Stiles, Dave, thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you for your questions as well. So there's Tim Schoen. Thank you, Tim. Murtaza Arif. Thank you, Murtaza. Great to have you in the house. There's Phoenix Feather 1031. Thanks, Phoenix. I'm going to scroll back down. Anybody else that wants a last minute shout out, throw it in there. Oh, there's, of course, Diane Hilbert, Fairy Queen. Haunted Road Media, Fairy Queen. Thank you. Katie Palmer. And I think that's probably going to about do it. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out this long on a Tuesday night. What else do we have coming up? Friday Night Ghost Frights. Yes, Friday Night Ghost Frights is coming back this week. I know we haven't really done one here in a few weeks. We've done some other things on Friday nights. It's because of the move and everything, been kind of out of the loop on doing the Friday Night Ghost Frights. And we try to supplement that with other things like, investigations and what have you. So look for that coming up here on Friday. And that's going to do it. All right, everybody. Slenderman and Shadow People is what we got into tonight. Movie does come out this on August 10th. So this week. Everybody have a great night. Thank you very much. Until next time. If I hit the right button. I'm always looking for the button. The button. Who's got the button? There it is.